Hey, I'm Yathi Diakumar, Chief Transformation Officer at Morgan & Morgan, and I'm here with Josh Schmerling, co-founder of LawPro.ai, and today we're going to be spending the day having a great conversation about the state of legal tech and where we're going. Is there one thing you believed about AI when you began this journey that you've completely changed your mind on?
I mean, as a lawyer, like most lawyers, we push against change, we push against technology. That's just, I think, natural for law firms, that we're always last to pick up technology and everything. So as a lawyer at first, I probably had the attitude that a lot of lawyers do it first, as they did a couple years ago. I don't think it's true now, but I would say, my law firm's already successful. Why do I need technology? Why do I need AI? And that's what I was hearing when I first started LawPro.ai and co-founded it. Law firms were saying, we don't need AI. Our firm's doing great. We don't need it. That's what we were hearing.
What was the reasoning?
There's no reason. It's just lawyers are stubborn. They're not fast to pick up new technologies, and they're concerned about, what could happen to me legally? Can I get sued? Is this HIPAA compliant? All these different things that start going through a lawyer's mind. And when we started LawPro, we started having those concerns from law firms originally, saying, I already built a law firm. I don't need to use other things. I don't need to use AI. What are the risks in using AI? And in the last year and a half, that's really changed. And now law firms are really engaging using AI at a huge level.
Did you originate the idea, or did your brother, who's also a co-founder, originate the idea? Where did the idea originate from?
Yeah, so my brother and I had spoken about the idea of getting into legal space with a startup. So we had spoken about that idea. We weren't sure exactly what we wanted to do. And he came to me with a question, which was, where is your law firm having trouble in terms of growth? And my law firm had been having trouble with growth for a couple of years. We had not grown in a couple of years.
How big was your law firm? Give me...
About 10 people, about 10 employees.
10 employees?
Yeah.
How many attorneys?
At the time, 3 lawyers.
Okay, and now?
40 people. We're hiring our 9th lawyer in the last 2-3 years.
So you've gone from 10 employees to 40 employees. You've gone from 3 attorneys to going to be 9 attorneys.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so when my brother asked me that question, I had to think hard about, what's holding me back right now? Because every year without fail, we hit the same revenue dollar, no matter what we did. And I said to him, I called him back and I said, here's my issue. As I try to grow, there are more records that come in, and my best people in my law firm are reading medical records. And that's not a good use of their time. They're getting burnt out from it. They should be doing bigger and better things with their minds. And it's stopping our growth. And he said, okay, well, let's take that idea and let's see if we can build on it. And that was the genesis of LawPro.ai. And now those people that I mentioned just now, one of them is my director of operations now. So she went from reading medical records all day and being my paralegal, now she runs the firm. My other one is a manager in my office who's in charge of all of our pre-lit and all of our office trainings. And she, again, was just reading medical records all day. So I was able to put people in better positions.
So basically, medical records were this bottleneck for your firm, either getting them, reviewing them, understanding what's in them, turning them into demands, and it just negotiating with them, that just prevented your business from growing from a time on desk perspective or an average case value perspective.
And the other thing that it kept us from doing is really providing the service that our clients should have had, which is, we're so focused on keeping our head in the books and reading the records. We need to be talking to our clients more. And this idea, this thought, was we can also provide a better service to our clients and be in touch with them more and talk through with them. They're nervous a lot of times. They haven't been through a car accident, let's say, right? And they're getting medical treatment. They want to know, what's going on? How am I going to deal with this? What's going to happen next? And not having to read through records like this also allowed us to really focus on the client more. I think a lot of lawyers forget that we're in the service business. I mean, that's the business we're in. And in any service out there, if you don't provide good service, they'll find somebody else that does. There's plenty of people that do personal injury work.
Yep.
If they have a bad experience or they don't have proper service, next time they'll find someone else that does.
Consumers really hire attorneys for a few key reasons. The first one is okay, I'm hurt. Can you get me compensation, right? That's the basic reason. The second piece is actually I have no idea what to do and what this means. Can you educate me about this process? And the third piece is actually, can you just tell me everything's going to be okay? So like if you think about all three of those things, two of them were actually like more service oriented than legal work.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of law firms forget that. And they just think, if I just show a good outcome, the client's going to be happy. But you could show a good outcome, and the client might still not be happy.
Yep.
Because you didn't provide proper service.
So we did a joint survey, and we surveyed over 300 law firms about the state of legal tech. What did we find out?
Yeah, we found out a lot of information from that survey. We found out how often law firms throughout the country, personal injury law firms, are engaging with AI. We found out what the biggest fears are with AI. We found out where law firms are planning to go in the next 12 to 18 months with AI, how much people are spending on AI. Those are all things that we found out from this report and look forward to share here with you.
Great. What was the most surprising thing that you learned as part of this survey?
The most surprising thing to me was that 92% of personal injury firms are currently engaging with AI. And you take back about a year ago, as I was mentioning, that personal injury firms were originally saying, I don't need AI in my practice. A year later, you have 92% of them reporting that they're engaging with AI. And that's to different levels, obviously. Some of them have fully integrated AI into their workflows. Some of them are kind of just testing out AI to see how it will work in their workflows. But the fact that only 8% of personal injury law firms throughout the country are engaging in AI, I don't think any other technology in the legal space has ever grown that fast. And that to me was really shocking.
And it's sort of interesting because we have some experience with technology here, and it's historically very difficult to get attorneys to adopt technology. Why do you think this time it's different?
It's just such a game changer. I mean, you really, if you have two law firms, two personal injury law firms in the same community that are against each other, competitors, if one's using AI, they're going to be able to, in terms of what LawPro.ai does, they're going to be able to help shorten time on desk and increase case values. Those are two things that are of monumental importance to the client. Finishing their cases faster and get finality for their cases, and also increasing what they're going to get in their pocket. That's incredibly important. And you have law firm B in the same community and a competitor that's going to take longer to finish the case and get less value for the case. That law firm, if they continue doing that, won't be around much longer. So I think it became a necessity, not just a nice to have.
Got it. So let's go back to the survey. So how much are law firms actually investing in AI?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting part of the survey. So what the survey found of over 300 law firms was that 14% of firms are currently spending over $50,000 a year on AI. Now, it also found a large number of firms, over 50% of firms, are only spending $5,000 a year on AI. So it's really interesting to see that 14% is spending so much money quickly on AI. I think what the other number shows is that a very large percentage is just kind of getting into AI right now. Like, hey, let's test a couple things, let's put some money in, let's see what it can do for us. And I would expect in the next year that number to change dramatically.
We probably have a very broad audience listening. So what's the average size of the law firm that we surveyed?
I couldn't tell you the average size of the law firm.
But if it's 50,000 to 10,000 or 5,000 that they're spending, what do we think? Like 10 people?
I would say that's probably a good guess. Most personal injury law firms, I think, usually have 1, 2, 3 lawyers at max for the most part, right? And those kind of firms will usually be 10 people or maybe even less.
The thing that stood out to me about this survey was 90%, 92% were already spending on AI, but the majority of them actually also said they need help deciding what to spend it on. Even though they're spending, they don't feel confident in the decision that they made to spend because it seems like there's a lot of noise in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I think that's right. I mean, there's a lot of providers out there that claim they do things, and when you get into it with them, they might not even be able to do what they say they're doing. So I think, number one, when you're looking at AI and implementing AI into your system, I think it's really important to make sure they can actually do what they claim to do and be able to have a test or approve at a sandbox where you can go in there and test things. The other thing is, I think law firms are starting to move right now, based on some of the data that we saw in the survey, from, it's cool and it's fun, to how's this going to change ROI for my law firm? And I think that's a really key, important point that law firms are looking at right now. Number one, does it work? All this AI out there in the legal space now, which ones work, which ones don't? And which ones are actually going to move the needle for me?
Yeah, and I think that's the challenging piece, because I think when you look at AI, it's important to understand it's another form of technology. And what is your framework for actually interacting with it? How are you going to get value out of it? Right. So, you had a great story about how, the constraint in your business was actually medical records, and that was preventing you from growth. Now, you could take 5 businesses, and they could all have very different constraints.
Yeah, 100%.
And for another person, it might be intake. For another person, it might be actually, I don't know, distributing checks. For another person, it could be, hey, getting police reports. For example, if you're in California, it's very hard to get police reports. So most of these law firms really don't have a framework for deciding how to interact with AI. Like, maybe we should talk through that piece to give them a little bit of guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really crucial. And I say this at all the conferences I go to, all the times I'm speaking on stage. AI is not magic. You don't get to just hire an AI company and it's going to change your law firm overnight. That's not how it works. You need to first find what's your pain point, right? So you mentioned a number of different pain points that law firms might be facing. And you need to say, okay, this is my pain point. Now, how am I going to fix it using technology and AI?
Okay, let's use an example. Let's use yours. I have so many medical records. I have to write all these demands. I'm not getting through it.
That's the pain point, right?
Okay.
You then need to understand, okay, what technology can fix the pain point, okay, in my opinion. So LawPro.ai is the technology that can fix the pain point. But then you need to have a standard operating procedure of how we're going to implement this technology to fix this pain point. We know the technology can do it. We know what the pain point is. But how are we going to have that workflow work in our law firm? Are we going to use, in this example, LawPro.ai on every case? When are we going to put the medical records into LawPro.ai? When are we going to have it take it directly from the case management system? Are we going to manually put it in? Are we going to have LawPro.ai?
Let me interrupt you a little. So let's go back to the decision process, because I think where a lot of attorneys and a lot of law firms struggle is which vendor, which provider do I choose? There's so many of them. Yeah. If you look at my email, there's a person pitching a different product every day. And I think that's really what's happening to legal businesses across the country. So, like, how do you even start to evaluate, one or the other?
Well, if you're a bigger firm and you have somebody that's in charge of looking after all the technologies and stuff coming out, great. If you have someone that's assigned for that, that's terrific. Most firms don't have that, obviously. So most firms, it's the managing partner or the office manager that's looking at that. And I think, first of all, you have to look to see, okay, who are the couple of players in the space that are credible, right? Because everyone's popping up with different, I can do this, I can do that. A lot of it's not true. A lot of it just is not, it's smoke and mirrors. So who are the credible players in the space? And then you need to interview them, see who you feel comfortable with. You need to do a test with them. All these providers, if they are legitimate, will let you test out the system to make sure it's legit. And I know, before you guys started using us a bunch.
Yeah, we did a pilot with you guys.
Right, for an extended period of time because you want to really test us, and that was great.
So what's a good pilot look like?
So I can tell you what a pilot looks like for us is if a firm wants to pilot with us, they get a week for free. Really use us, throw in stuff, try different things, use us for a week. And we do multiple calls during that week to also make sure that they're getting the best use of that free week. Did you guys try this? Have you tried this? Have you thought about this? And that way they get to really test us out and make sure they feel comfortable with the system.
So just kind of to close the loop here. So really start with the pain point, then you have to go through an evaluation process. Maybe you choose 2 or 3 vendors that claim that they can do the same thing, and then really pit them against each other on a pilot with real cases.
Right. And then you also have to look at price, right? So some of these vendors are extremely expensive, and some of them are more cost effective. The bottom line, though, is the more that you're spending on the vendor, the less you have to spend on marketing or overhead, employees, whatever it is. So you need to take that in consideration also to make sure you don't need, if your pain point is understanding medical records, you don't need bells and whistles to help you with intake. That's not your pain point, right? So you don't need to spend extra to have that. That's, again, a nice to have, but it's not going to change your ROI, right? So make sure you're fixing the exact problem and you're only spending on that problem because you don't need to spend extra for a problem you don't have. Once you have that vendor and you've locked in, you've chosen that vendor, then it's really important to determine your operating procedures.
So I think price is an interesting thing. It seems like there is no pricing transparency in this space whatsoever. You talk to 2 different attorneys who have 2 different law firms. One is paying, I don't know, I've heard some ridiculous numbers, $400 per demand, and then the other is paying, I don't know, $50 to $100. So what is normal pricing? How does someone that is not familiar with AI space understand what something really should cost?
I think that's a great point. And actually, I have found people throughout the country, some people I found paying $750 for a demand. So, I mean, it's crazy, the difference in pricing. I think a couple of things that are really crucial. Number one, it is to make sure you're not locking yourself up in a 2-year or 3-year or 4-year contract. This technology is changing so much, and this is me as somebody that co-founded LawPro saying, don't do that. The technology is changing so much every day. To lock yourself up with a company like that will not make sense for you. And it could be that company changes directions with technology or things just go differently than you expected. So first of all, make sure that you're in a 1-year contract. Most people don't do less than a 1 year. 1-year contract's fair. And that also helps to make sure you have the best in product no matter what's coming out.
By the way, it's crazy to me people are signing 4-year contracts.
Oh yeah, and they're signing 2 and 3 and 4-year contracts all the time. And with technology, I mean, we just talked about a couple minutes ago before we got on here, how it's changing day by day, month by month. I mean, the technology is changing all the time. So I think that's number one. Don't lock yourself into something like that for more than a year. Number two, you need to have an honest, back and forth. If you're spending $400 on demand, is that really worth it? And now a lot of law firms will bill it back to their client. And you have to think, is that proper for me to bill back to my client? $400 for a demand letter. That's something that a law firm has to decide. Some law firms do it, some don't. Now, $100 for a demand letter, that could be much more worthwhile. But also, what's the company doing for you otherwise to help the case? A demand letter is so simple at this point and commoditized.
It's commoditized.
And so everyone can do that. It's pretty simple, straightforward, right? What else are they doing for me to provide value to the client? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we do at LawPro to really help provide value is help negotiate the case for you.
Oh, you guys help negotiate a case?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How does that work?
So, a law firm sends the demand, we'll help them with the demand letter, and then what they'll do, the lawyer, paralegal, whoever wants to do this, will just type into our system, what are the best value drivers in this case? What are the best things to argue with the insurance company or the adjuster? And it'll even give you negotiation strategy, but it also will pull out all the findings from all the medical records and say, hey, make sure to argue this and make sure to argue that, and make sure to talk about this. And if you're a law firm that does litigation, this is like putting gas on the fire, because what happens at that point is the adjuster hears specifics. So if a law firm used to negotiate by saying, oh, there's 6 weeks of physical therapy and an MRI, now they can say, hey, on their second visit here, they had an 8 out of 10 pain level and they had spasms going through their back. And on then a visit here, it showed you're getting so nitty gritty here with it that the adjuster starts thinking, okay, they're going to try this case. If I don't give them the value they're looking for, this is a firm that tries cases. And so we get used every day by our clients to help negotiate cases and increase case value. So I think you have to really look at what are the steps that the vendor is providing you and what are they charging you for it. For that service, is it worth $100 for you, for the demand letter to go out, help you negotiate the case, help you shorten time on desk? I would say yes. And that happens to be on average what we cost for our client per file, when many of our competitors charge a lot more. And so I think you have to look at the whole thing of what you're getting. And then in addition to that, we also help with all the litigation. We help you with answering interrogatories. We help you with cross-examining defense experts, putting on your own experts for no additional cost. In our system, you get our product, you get everything. There's no nickel and dime where you charge you extra for this, we charge extra for that. We don't do any of that. I think that's also really important.
So you get a platform, you pay per case, depending on what you're doing, but you get access to all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, actually the really nice thing about us, which is different than everybody else out there, is you pay per page. And so what makes us different in that is that a lot of firms, when they're looking to go into one of our competitors, let's say, they have to pick and choose which cases go in as part of their operating procedure. Because if they have a really small case, they can't afford a $400 expense in that small case. But for us, typically the way it works is smaller cases of smaller pages and bigger cases of bigger pages. And we're charging per page. So if you have a small case that's 200, 300, 400 pages, that cost on that case is going to be $100 or less. If you have 100 pages, that cost might be $25, right? But then your bigger cases that have thousands of pages are going to cost more, but those should be the bigger cases also that can take on more expense.
Got it. So to kind of bring this kind of full circle, for a lot of these law firms that are struggling to decide which tools to use, right? There's an evaluation process, there's a pilot process, there's pricing that needs to be considered, and what else?
And standard operating procedure, right? If you have to pick and choose which case is going in, which case isn't, that makes your procedures more complicated.
So it's like something that can just plug into the way that your firm works.
Correct. That's a best case scenario, that you don't have to create some whole new big procedure of, if the case has this many pages, use this, or if we think it has a value of this, use this service. It can just be, use this for everything. And that's the best case scenario because it just makes it easier. And then putting in the procedure of, okay, now that we've decided we're going to put in every case through the system, what are we using the system for? helping to write demand letters, helping to negotiate, helping with discovery, whatever it is.
This is kind of the interesting piece for me is often, we talk about attorneys, but the people that really use the tools are like the paralegals and the case managers and the support staff. Like, how do they become incentivized to adopt these tools?
Well, I think number one, it's really crucial for a law firm owner, office manager, to explain the vision to the law firm before you implement any tools. People get nervous. They hear AI, they think I'm going to lose my job. And you have to give them the vision of, okay, this is what we're looking at right now. This is the pain point we're trying to fix. Nobody will be losing their job from this. I just told you before, I went from 10 employees to 40. When I implement AI, I didn't lose people, I gained people because our business got so much bigger, right? You need to explain the vision to them, that this is to grow our business, not for us to fire people. Once people are at ease, and hopefully they trust you, because hopefully you've been trustworthy, then they can understand, okay, that's the vision, we're growing the business, this isn't gonna take my job. And then you have to talk through what are the best steps with that paralegal, case manager, whoever it is. And in a best case scenario, the vendor should be helping you with this. So LawPro.ai, what we do is we provide unlimited support to all of our customers. So you bring in a new person, you hire a new person, we do the onboarding for you. So we teach them, for the law firm, we teach that person how to use LawPro. If they want to put a new...
You go in person, or what's your...
We do both. We have customer success and sales reps throughout the country that will go in person. We also do it on Zoom. It depends if we have somebody near their city or not. So we do both, and to hire a new person, we'll help doing all the onboarding with LawPro, which is very simple, doesn't take long. If they're changing their own procedures, they start looking at how they want to handle cases a little bit differently, we'll work with them. We're a true partner to make sure the operating procedure goes right. And you want to make sure you have someone like that you have a specific person to go and speak to if you want to onboard people or you're changing your procedures, whatever it is, that they're going to help you with that process.
Got it. Let me ask this, it's a bit of a tangent, but not all law firms really took part in the last technology wave, which is like moving to the cloud generally, okay? Or some are very, very late. So how do people who are kind of late adopters of technology still benefit from the AI wave? Like, because a lot of the 92% that are trying AI, they really weren't on top of what they should have been last time. Are they still capable of using technology like AI if they don't have the right tech stack? Like, what if they have needles or using on-prem technology?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was at a conference last week, and I had a law firm mention a case management system that I didn't even know it still existed. I mean, the thing is from the 90s.
What was it called?
Abacus? Have you heard of that?
No. I know what an abacus is.
That's what it's called. I hadn't heard of this name for a long time. And then I met a second lawyer right after him who has the same exact technology they're using for their files. And I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And they said to me, they're like, we missed the boat on case management, and we're still using our same old system that we've used forever. And they asked the same question basically you just asked. And I said, well, you don't have to do everything all at once, right? The case management system that you're doing apparently is working for you guys, that you have a law firm, they happen to be smaller law firms. You don't need to change all your technology all at the same time. The great thing about AI and LawPro.ai also is that it's a very simple, easy system to use, and you can at least make this change now. And if you decide to change case management systems later on, fine, great, we can work with that case management system. But just because you missed the wave before, don't miss it again, because your firms have stayed small, and that could be one of the reasons, because you didn't have the right technology in place.
So Josh, we're going to zoom out a little bit because there was a really interesting point that I want to make sure we hit. We've talked a lot about medical records and demands and supporting the litigation process, but there's a lot more to running a law firm than just that. There's intake, there's performance management, there's record retrieval. There's a lot to it. So let's actually zoom out, because AI can help across so many different parts of your business. And the attorney actually has subject matter expertise when it comes to records, because of the way I think about PI attorneys is sometimes they're almost like medical doctors in the way that they understand what's happening in a case. How do you think about these other portions of the business, and how do you think about using AI as a value-added tool there?
Yeah, so I think it somewhat goes back a little bit to what we spoke about in terms of you have to interview the right people and make sure you're looking at the right tools and see which one's the right fit and having a standard operating procedure. But you also need to understand your numbers to know what you're looking to grow or change. So for example, intake, let's say, right? Most law firms that don't track this, that are personal injury law firms, will tell you, oh, we sign up every client that calls us. That's what they'll typically tell you right off the bat. Knowing having tracked the numbers now for a long time, that's just not true. It's not a true statement. You do not sign up every single client. I guarantee it. And so you first need to have a baseline of, okay, our issue's intake. Okay, what's your issue with intake? People on hold too long, you're not signing up enough clients, what is your sign up rate on qualified leads? You need to know that baseline, and you need to put somebody who's in charge of it. That way, if things aren't going right, you have one person only that you can go to and be like, hey, you're not implementing this the right way, and this is not improving what we're trying to fix. So someone has to be in charge of it. It could be the lawyer, it could be the office manager if you're a small firm, or it could be someone that's their sole job. Your job is to implement AI for our intake. And what you need to then start seeing, okay, if we were signing up 80% of qualified leads, are we now signing up 85%? Or if we were getting to those calls within 15 seconds, are we getting to them within 5 seconds now? And you need to track exact numbers that you want to improve on. And if you're not tracking exact numbers, if you don't know what you want to improve on, then you're just spinning your wheels and you're just getting a cool tool that might be helping you, might not, but you really don't know.
So I think this is kind of interesting because what you're really saying is you should understand what your data suggests, because you might want to explore an intake tool, but exploring an intake tool without any understanding of what value you're going to get from it is not going to be helpful. And while a PI attorney might have expertise from the medical side of things and the demand writing side of things, that it might need to be more of a collaborative process, specifically when you're looking for areas that are a little bit more operational, whether it's whoever runs your intake team, if you're a larger firm, or whether it's the folks that do your intake call. And you have to really think through kind of the operational side of it.
Yeah, even as a small little item of how long is my average intake call lasting, right? An intake call should only take a certain amount of time because you need your intake people, if you have an intake team, to get onto the next call, but you also have to be empathetic with the client and you have to treat them well and respectfully, obviously, so it's finding that balance. But if you have your intake team doing hour-long phone calls, well, no wonder why they're not getting to enough phone calls, because they're spending an hour doing intake when maybe it should only take 25 minutes. So it's all these little small things, and we're just taking intake as one example, that you need to really understand before you can decide, all right, I'm going to implement new technology to help fix it, because you don't even know what you're trying to fix.
Got it. So if you're a law firm with one intake agent, maybe don't jump to AI voice right away. Maybe instead try to understand, hey, what percentage of phone calls are you actually picking up? And do you actually have the systems in place to understand your data and then make the right leap across to something like AI voice?
Exactly, yes.
So with certain things like medical records, you can make a bigger leap from an older system to a newer system. In certain operational area, you actually have to kind of better understand the problem to tackle it.
Right, so every law firm owner understands medical records, right? You're a lawyer, you deal with them every day, to your point. But you don't understand your numbers of intake maybe, because you've never been through them and you don't understand them. But a lot of law firm owners, when it comes to, let's say, medical record review, what they refuse to admit sometimes, and what has come out from the data, is that law firm owners, paralegals, people, they miss things in the medical records that are value drivers.
Sure.
And nobody wants to admit to it, because everyone thinks they're perfect.
Because there's not actually enough time to review records in the level of detail that you need to. And by the way, it's not just attorneys. I think the same is true for nurses and doctors. These records are just really, really, really long.
Really long, and sometimes it could be 3 words out of 1,000 pages that could change the value of a case. One of our clients called me, and he said, the adjuster told us 140,000 was the top offer on the case, take it or leave it. And when I was using LawPro to help negotiate, it pulled out that my client woke up during his surgery. Nobody had seen that. It was in a small place in the operative report. An operative report is typically 3 to 4 pages, and typically you don't read the whole operative report. You just see what was the pre-op and what was the post-op, and that tells you the information you need. But this was in the actual operative report. And when it showed that to them, they went back to the adjuster and showed the adjuster, and they just like, you're right, I didn't see that. We didn't see that. And the next offer, when he said he would not go any higher, went from 140,000 to 240,000. So that's just one example that often people don't want to admit to, because that means you're not doing what you should be for your clients if you're missing stuff like that. And that's why AI is so important when it comes to medicals.
So zooming back out, you're going to have different strategies to tackle different parts of your business. Like the areas that you have expertise in and part of your day-to-day workflow, you're going to be able to make quicker decisions and just tackle them, like medical records. For things like intake or customer experience, you're going to have a better understanding of the data to understand that space, because you often are not going to have the subject matter expertise that you need to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And you're just guessing if you don't have the information, and you don't actually know if what you've done and the money you've spent is working or not.
You're much more likely to waste your investment there.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think now what we really want to do is talk a little bit more about where legal tech, specific with AI, is going over the next, let's say 10 to 26 months. And this is sort of interesting. I mean, it is interesting, but like it's sort of interesting because you have to separate the hype from reality, because there's a ton of hype. Every day there's a new advancement, there is a new change, there is some, tech CEO who's saying we're going to automate half of your business and there's going to be mass unemployment. So like, maybe to start simply, what are the things that you're most excited by that you're seeing in the landscape?
Yeah, what I'm really excited, and by the way, this is a hard question. This is always, I think, the hardest question I get asked, is where AI is going the next 10 to 26 months. Some people have asked me in the next 5 years. I'm like, I can't answer the next 5 years. Like, I have no idea.
We'll bring you back in 26 months and tell you where we were wrong.
So in the next 10 to 26 months, I think where AI really is moving is to further help workflows in terms of not only are we going to understand the medical records, we're going to help you negotiate, but we're going to take next steps also in terms of, okay, also talking to your client and immediately telling them, here's the offer, here's what you get in your pocket, what do you think about this? Immediately following up with in-house staff. If, let's say LawPro.ai finds that you're missing a record or bill that you thought you had and the system shows you don't have it, that immediately it kicks off a workflow that says to your paralegal, hey, we're missing this record and bill, and you need to go make sure we get this.
Is this what people call agents? Is this part of the agents conversation, or are you talking about something slightly separate?
I think it could be done slightly separately or through agents. There's a lot of hype right now about agents. Agents are going to do everything for you, and they're just going to work perfectly, and everything's going to work, and just give us your whole case, and you can kick up your feet and not have to work very hard. I don't buy that right now. I don't believe that. Show it to me. I'd love to see it. I think there's still a lot of stuff that we have to do, and we're going to need to do for quite a while still. So when I hear, oh, an agent's just going to do the whole case and do everything and do all the community, I don't buy that. But
Why not?
I think there's a couple of reasons for it. I think first of all, clients want human touch. So, you can send an email to a client and you could have help using AI with that. But clients want to hear from you. They want to speak to you, is my opinion. I don't know what your thought is on that.
I didn't expect you to turn around on me. I think there's probably a few things. One, with the client piece, clients want to talk to a human being. Clients want to talk to a human being. Now, there's certain practice areas where it might be less important because the person is not severely injured. If you're in the PI space and someone's hired you because they're hurt, they want to talk to a human being, is my sense. So let's put that aside. I think the agent's terminology ultimately doesn't matter because people really just want solutions to the problems that they have. So whether it's agents or not, the terminology that we used to use here was called next best action. So we want to do the initial action. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at these medical records and find out if there's a surgical recommendation. Okay, now what's the next action? Okay, and can we actually do the next action so the attorney or the paralegal doesn't have to? And I think that's where you're getting at, right? So rather than getting caught up in the terminology of tech of today, just focus on the actual problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. And people will come to say to me, oh, I heard that they have all these agents that can do all this stuff for me, and well, talk to me about it a little bit more. And the law firm owners, when I try to ask them, well, what's it doing exactly, and how's it doing that? They don't know. They're just repeating a sales pitch that they heard from a tech vendor, right? Which I don't think is actually in action or being used. And so I think it's really crucial to understand what people are talking about. At the end of the day, it's exactly like what you're saying, is getting the cases moving through the system the best that they can to make sure you're helping the client the best you can as quickly as possible.
So the next thing that you're saying is, hey, there's a lot of AI tools in the market, but the AI tools are going to do more integration from a workflow perspective to do multi-steps.
Correct. So without us having to, right now I see, let's say LawPro pulls out that I'm missing a bill, and I have to then Slack someone on my team, go pull this bill or tag them on my case management, whatever it is, that'll go away. That this next step will automatically take care of itself to make sure that it's, however we use record retrieval or do record retrieval, that flow will just kick off itself and start moving forward. And that will help a lot with the dynamics in a firm, because phones are always ringing and people get busy, and that's when things get dropped like this. And it'll allow it to happen immediately instead of having to wait for that paralegal to see my Slack, to then find time to do it, to then go do it, to then let me know she did it. This will help workflows tremendously and help law firms be a lot more efficient in what they do.
I think what we're really headed to is kind of this world where today I think a lot of attorneys and paralegals and case managers are reactive. They come into work and they got to return 5 calls. Okay, there's 3 cases they need to write demands for. There's some emails that they have to look at, and they're just playing defense all day. And if you actually look at the data, paralegals and attorneys are really bad at picking up the phone because they want to know what's coming. And they're actually in a defensive posture most of the day, even if they're a plaintiff attorney. I think where we're headed over the next 10 to 26 months, whether it's agents or some new terminologies that we're going to come up with, is actually to redesign experiences and people's day so they're more proactive. So it's like, hey, we drafted these demands for you. Do you want to take one more look at this before we send it out? Okay. These people have called you over the last 3 to 4 days, and you've actually never called them back. Yeah. You want to give them a call, or actually, do you want to just send them a text to have them schedule a call so you can be a little bit more prepared?
And to your point, I think you're spot on. To your point, at least we've tried to do that in my firm right now by being more proactive. Now that they're not reading medical records all day, to be more proactive of you have a responsibility in my firm for every case you handle for the first 8 weeks to be in touch on a phone call with the client every 2 weeks. How's your treatment going? Is there anything you need? Are you still having issues? Do you need help out scheduling with any other appointments? Have you been referred for any doctors you need help with? Have you picked up your medication? Checking in on them and being proactive to make sure they're getting everything done at the beginning correctly, so nothing gets messed up there.
I actually think that's we've done in Matt Morgan, myself, Angie Fleury, we've looked at a lot of the data around customer experience, and what we actually found was that if you have best practices that you want your staff to do in terms of calling, your client, getting them prepared, et cetera, they do it, and they usually do it pretty well. What they usually struggle with is all of the unplanned work, and they need a mechanism to do that. But ultimately, it's like reorienting their workflow. How can they be more effective? And I think where we're going to have AI push a little bit more, and to do this, it's going to be tricky. It's easy to talk about it. It's much harder to execute, is actually to understand how people work. And it differs by every law firm, and it differs by case types, whether it's like automobile accidents or dog bites or any sort of general liability situation. And that means that these legal tech vendors really have to understand how these businesses work versus build tools, and that is actually asking them to take a leap. And I'm not sure if they're thinking about it that way.
I think you have to think about it that way, like you're saying. I mean, it's funny. I'll meet with 5 law firms in a day, let's say, and they'll look at the case summary that they're getting from LawPro, and I'll have 5 different comments about, oh, I want it this way, or I want it that way, or I want it this way. And so we can customize for specific firms, specific things that are needed. And I think you need to be flexible in working with your law firms, because there's certain needs they have. They're the customer, obviously. And for whatever reason, if they want to see X, Y, and Z on every case, you need to be able to show it to them. And I think that's crucial in terms of being able to provide what's needed.
So really kind of where we think technology is going to go is more workflows, more proactive. What else are we missing?
I think a better overall experience based on what we're talking about. But a lot of clients right now don't trust their lawyers because they don't get return phone calls. They don't hear from them enough. They feel like they haven't been checking up on treatment. They don't know what's going on with them. They don't know anything about them. They made a call to somebody they saw online or on TV, or that their brother-in-law told them to call, and then they haven't heard from anyone. And I think all of this technology and helping with the workflows is going to help build trust and hopefully give lawyers a better name at some point. Because I think at the end of the day, most lawyers are in this for the right reason. They want to help people. I think that's why most lawyers are in the personal injury space. If you're not in the space for that reason, you probably shouldn't be in the space, because there's a lot better ways to make money than being a personal injury lawyer. But assuming you're in this for the right reason to help people, then all this technology should be able to help you do that, and also give your client confidence that you're there for the right reasons and that you care and you're empathizing with them.
How do you think about it that you're a founder, you have LawPro.ai? and you're continuing to build product, but some of your customers may also be seeing what OpenAI is up to or Anthropic is up to, and they start wondering, hey, is the best way for me to be prepared for the future actually to use one of those tools that are run by basically companies that have raised billions and billions and billions, like I don't know how much they've raised, $80 billion or some ridiculous number. Like, isn't that a good path for me as a law firm to use one of those tools, was to focus on a legal tech provider specifically? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so, Anthropic, an article came out a couple days ago that they were looking for a $900 billion valuation right now. So that shows you how fast these companies are scaling. And me personally, as both a law firm owner and as a co-founder of LawPro.ai, I think those kinds of companies are crucial. I think they're very important. I think they can help law firms with lots of different things needed. So you can't ignore them, and it shouldn't say, oh, it's one or the other. I think it's both. It's both because they can work in tandem together. LawPro.ai has been specifically trained to help with medical records in the personal injury space. So pull out a red flag, or what's the issue with pre-existing. Also HIPAA compliant SOC 2 closed system, which a lot of these large language models are not. So if you're a law firm, you put medical records into a large language model, and many of those are not HIPAA compliant, then your bar license is on the line. You have a huge ethical issue there if you put your client's medical records to something that's not HIPAA compliant. So you need to be careful how you're using the large language models. You can't talk, in many of them, you can't talk about your client specifically. But for example, if you have a deposition of a, let's say just about a slip and fall expert, right? And I'm not talking about medical. I'm talking about just like a liability expert in a slip and fall case, right? It can help structure and put in all your questions in a great order for your deposition. So you can have an understanding, okay, in a slip and fall, these are the things I need to talk about with a liability expert, and this is the order I should go in. Like, that's a great use case for that, and it can do it for you within 20 seconds if you prompt it with the right questions. I think that's also really crucial, is lawyers learning how to prompt. Many lawyers don't know how to prompt, don't know what to be asking, and if you don't prompt right, you don't ask the right stuff, you're gonna not get the right information. So there's great things to use large language models for. You have to be careful, and that's why specific tools like LawPro, which is HIPAA compliant SOC 2 closed system, and has been trained specifically on what a law firm provider is looking for, are really crucial to use in tandem.
So it's not one or the other, is really your point of view?
Definitely not one or the other. I can tell you my law firm uses both every day. Certain things we can use, a large language model for, and certain things we use LawPro for.
What are you most excited about that we haven't talked about?
In the legal space, or in life.
In technology. In technology. I don't want to hear about your vacation plans.
I was going to say, hanging out here with you for the day.
No, that's great.
What I'm most excited about is some of what we talked about, which is workflow. A big reason why clients don't get return phone calls from lawyers or staff is because they're getting so many of them every day, in my opinion, right? I don't know the data, I haven't done a survey on this, but you're getting 1 million phone calls, you just finished 5 phone calls and another one comes in. You're like, I just thought I finished my phone calls.
Yeah, so I actually have looked at the data here. So basically, at Morgan, our case managers will make 5 outbound calls to clients every day, but they'll get 30 inbound calls. Not just from clients, it's medical providers, it's adjusters. So like inbound calls can be from people from all different walks of life. So there is this kind of point of contention, right, where all of this inbound activity comes in, and the inbound activity actually distracts from the work that allows them to get a case resolved.
Yeah, and that, you shouldn't be having to be on the phone 35 times a day. Obviously clients come first, right? But then some of the other calls, whether it's a medical provider, whether it's an insurance company, whatever it is, there should be better workflows and systems for that you're not getting all of these calls every single day. I mean, just to tell you how far behind the legal world is, as of a couple years ago, the only way you could send a release to Geico was mail or fax. They wouldn't even take a release back, at least in Maryland, through email until recently.
Do they do it now?
They do it now. But that's a new technology for them, that they could take a release back through email. So that's how far behind the system is, and we really need to get things moving a lot faster. So a lot of these calls, when it's medical providers, I'm just checking on client's case. Where's the client's case? Is it done yet? Or an insurance company, where's the treatment at? A lot of these things should not be phone calls that have to then take a call, explain things to them, hang up the call, get back to the work you were doing. It's a time suck, and it's not focusing on the client during that time.
I think the piece that I'm excited about is that as technology changes, consumer expectations change. So the consumer is going to require behavior is changed because they know that they're going to have better options, essentially. So the way I think about it is like if you're a law firm, you can drive the change yourself, or someone else is going to make you change. And the access to LLMs is that basically everyone is just becoming more and more and more informed. Like if you actually look at it, like customer complaints are exploding. Why? Because it's easier than ever before to complain about stuff. Where there's also more HR complaints. So like as like access to information becomes commoditized, and I think that's what we're seeing, then what it's going to do is you're going to have to change. So you can do it before you're forced to do it and actually control your destiny, or you're going to have some pain along the way.
100%, especially, Google reviews, for example, right? Like that's a huge thing in my office. I'm sure it's huge here at Morgan & Morgan.
Yep.
And I'm always shocked when I see law firms nowadays who have terrible reviews. It's like they don't look at them, they don't care about them, they don't respond to them. I've heard of law firms telling their lawyers that they're not allowed to return client calls, only the paralegals can do that. And it's like, you're just gonna get horrible reviews that way.
Terrible.
And there's no way people are gonna be coming back to you in the future. And I love that it's gonna up the game, basically is what you're saying. It's gonna up the game for everyone, and it should.
And like, not to get dark here, there's gonna be more malpractice claims.
Yeah.
That you're gonna see, because people will ask the question, hey, is my lawyer doing the right thing? Hey, I had a surgical recommendation, but he resolved my case for $10,000. Was that something that should have happened?
Right. Yeah. I just got in my office. We got a policy limits offer of $500,000, and the client was trying to argue back and forth with us if they should take it or not. And they were clearly using a large language model to respond back and forth. And so when I asked, hey, do you want to meet in person? Let's talk through it all, and let's see. It's your decision. We'll do whatever you want. They said, no, we want to keep emailing you back and forth, and we're clearly using a large language model to determine. So,
what was their point of view? That like you should get more than the policy limits?
Correct. Go after the individuals, because the individuals have assets. And obviously there's issues there, right? They could file for bankruptcy and discharge it, and you have to take a lot of things into consideration. At the end of the day, what we did, because the client wanted it, was we did not take the policy limits offer, and we filed suit. And that's what the client decided that they wanted. We explained all the risks and everything else. But it was the first time I saw a client going back and forth with me based on information they're getting from a large language model. And the other thing you have to be careful, obviously large language models always tell people like they're right, they very much love the people that are typing in for them. So you have to be a little careful of how you prompt things. So I think they were getting the answers they wanted, and they wanted to move forward with litigation. But we went through all the stuff, and the client made an informed decision, and we're in litigation.
What's the term that they use for it? It's
sycophants? Is that the term?
Sycophantic?
Sycophantic?
Yeah, sycophantic behavior.
Yes.
Oh, like everyone's LLM gasses them up, essentially.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's a real thing. I think that's a real thing. Like consumers are getting really, really smart about this. So if you're not actually enabled from a technology perspective, and if you're going back to like the 10 months to 26 months, you're going to get a lot more external pressure. And that means you're going to have to get really, really smart about where the common issues are. It's like usually there's like concentration risk, like 20% of your like pain points are like 80% of like all the issues that you have to deal with. One of the 80-20 rule, I think it applies to problems too. So I think that's another way for you to understand how technology can help you.
100%. And the good news about all this though is that what I think it will do was, there are firms out there that are just looking to make a quick buck. Hurry up and settle the case, settle the case, settle the case, move the case along, settle it, and just jamming settlements down clients' throats. And I don't really want those law firms in business. They give a bad name to all of us, and they don't do well for the clients. And they tell the insurance companies that their behavior works, that we're going to take whatever offer you make. And so the fact that now it's going to raise the game, I think will also make it harder on the insurance companies in the long run, because you're going to get some of these lawyers that are very low level, just settlement, quick buck mills, and you're going to then start forcing people to file more litigation, making insurance companies to actually have to value cases properly instead of saying, all right, this law firm I can take advantage of, and because I took advantage of this one, I'm going to try to take advantage of this other one also.
And one of my colleagues told me that insurance companies are always nervous when they hear rumors about us buying other law firms, because they think we're going to take these settlement mills and actually like get value for those clients. So the fact that settlement mills exist is bad for consumers but good for insurance companies. So Josh, one of the things that's kind of top of mind, and we have these concerns from attorneys at Morgan & Morgan, is how do you think about hallucination risk?
That's a great question. I think it's something that everyone needs to think about. Even from the survey that we did with over 300 personal injury law firms, 69% of them said their biggest concern was accuracy. And a lot of vendors don't talk about hallucination or hallucination risk, but they are real. And there has to be a way that you deal with them or that your vendor deals with them. What we do at LawPro.ai is we have hallucination prevention technology that's patent pending. That before the end results, the output goes to the law firm, that it goes back through everything that we've done, looks for irregularities, and autocorrects it. The other thing that we do is we cite our sources, which is incredibly important with a vendor in this space, and AI, meaning that anything that we show to the user, to the law firm, you can click a button and immediately see the record that we pulled it from. So that way, if you're like, this doesn't look right, or this might not be right, I want to see the record. You just click a button and it pulls it up right in front of you. So those are the two things we do to help with dealing with hallucinations.
Is there a way for law firms to audit the demand before it goes out to make sure there is no hallucination if they've written something using LawPro.ai?
Yeah, well, with the demand letter that we have in our system, it has a little bubble next to each line, basically, in the demand letter, showing you where we pulled the information from. So anything you want to look at in that demand letter, you can directly click on a bubble, and it will take you to the exact place in the medical records of where we pulled the information. So, and that's with anything we do, whether it's negotiations or answering discovery or cross-examining defense experts, putting on your own experts. Anything you're asking LawPro for or prompting it for, it's going to have those little bubbles for you that automatically will take you to the place in the time.
So citations are built into your system?
Correct, with everything that we do.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. The very cool thing about what you're doing in the legal tech space is actually the people that benefit are the victims of accidents across the country. You help law firms adopt technology, but really the technology helps them better serve people that are hurt, and really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.